Okay, so today we're diving into a pretty radical idea. What if the Quran actually has its own instruction manual baked right into it? A way of reading it that claims its authority comes from the text itself, and only the text.
I mean, think about it. How should you read a sacred book? Do you need a special guide? Do you have to perform a certain ritual first? Does it take, years and years of training? This isn't a small question. It's something that's shaped entire religions for, well, centuries.
But what if the key, the actual instruction manual, was hiding in plain sight? What if it's embedded right there in the pages of the book? That's exactly the idea we're going to dig into today. The claim that the Quran itself tells you how it wants to be understood. So before we even think about bringing in outside methods or interpretations, the argument goes that you have to start with the source. You got to ask the book itself, hey, what are you? What do you claim to be? What does the Quran actually say about its own nature? And right off the bat, we hit this claim of completeness. The Arabic word is mufassalan, which basically means fully detailed or completely explained. So the verse is asking this really powerful question. If the book already has all the details, why would you need to go looking for another judge, another authority outside of it?
And this next verse, well, it takes that idea and just runs with it. It goes even further. It straight up questions why anyone would need any hadith, and that just means a statement or a story, after you've already got God's verses. It's like the text itself is saying, look here, not over there.
And then there's this is huge. The text uses the word tafsir. Now, for anyone who knows, that's the exact word for a commentary or an interpretation of the Quran. So what's happening here is the book is literally saying it provides its own best commentary. It's pointing to a system that's totally self-contained and internally consistent. Okay, so you might be thinking, if the Quran says all this, why isn't this the standard way of thinking? And that's a great question. Well, a lot of the time it comes down to one single, really powerful verse, a verse that's basically been used as a gatekeeper. And here it is, verses 77 to 79 from chapter 56. Now, at first glance, it seems pretty straightforward, right? It looks like it's setting a very clear rule about who can get near this noble Quran. But, and this is the key, this whole thing hinges on what those words, touch, protected, and purified, really mean. So the traditional take, the one that's been around for centuries, is that this verse means you have to be in a state of ritual purity, wudu, just to physically touch the book. And what does that do? It creates a physical barrier. And pretty often, it also creates a special class of people who get to control who has access.
But what if that interpretation misses the entire point? Let's do exactly what this method suggests. Let's challenge that view by digging into the original Arabic, using the context that the source material itself gives us.
All right, first up is the phrase kitabin maknoon. It means a protected or hidden or preserved book. But here's the question the source asks. What if this isn't talking about a physical book sitting up in heaven somewhere? What if it's something else entirely? After all, the word kitab in the Quran doesn't just mean book. It can also mean a pattern, or a system, or a decree. Okay, next piece of the puzzle, al-mutahharun, the purified ones. Again, the question is, what kind of purity are we talking about here? Is it about washing with water, or could it be pointing to something deeper, a kind of intellectual or maybe even spiritual purity?
And this is where a really core concept comes into play, fitra. The source material defines this as the natural underlying pattern of reality. It's this innate sense of truth that's built into all of creation, including every single one of us. You could almost think of it like the uncorrupted source code for reality itself.
So let's put it together. What if the Kitabin Maknoon, that protected, hidden book, is actually the fitra? I mean, it fits, right? It is protected and it is hidden. Not up in the sky, but right here, right in front of us, buried under all the layers of social conditioning, tradition, and just our own egos. And this is where you see the two paths diverge so clearly. The traditional reading, it's all about a physical barrier. Only ritually pure people can touch a physical book. But this other reading, it's an intellectual challenge. It says only purified minds can actually perceive the pattern of reality, the fitra, that the Quran is talking about. See the difference? One restricts access, but the other invites everyone to do some deep internal work. Now, this new way of seeing things, it has huge implications. It completely shifts the focus. It's no longer about some external ritual you perform, it's all about your internal state of mind. It becomes less about what you bring to the text and more about what you're willing to clear away. So in this view, to touch the Qur'an's real message means you've got a challenge on your hands. It means purifying your mind from all the baggage, the preconceived ideas you grew up with, the blind reliance on traditional authorities, the contradictory stories from other sources, the sectarian biases that just create us versus them thinking, and all the man-made rituals that aren't even in the book to begin with.
And this is where it all comes full circle. You see how this whole methodology lines up, almost perfectly, with what the Qur'an says about itself. It calls itself huda, guidance. It constantly reminds you it's an Arabic Qur'an. It claims to have its own best tafsir. And, as we saw, it explicitly asks why you'd follow any hadith after God's own words. And that brings us to the ultimate irony, doesn't it? A verse that has been used for centuries to put up barriers, to tell people, sorry, you're not pure enough to even touch this book, might actually be doing the complete opposite. Instead of a barrier, it's a challenge. It's a call for intellectual courage, demanding that every single reader take on the job of purifying their own mind to see what's actually there. It basically democratizes the whole thing and kicks the gatekeepers to the curb.
So, let's end with this question, and it's really one for you to think about. If a sacred text truly demands a purified mind to be understood, what would you have to clear away? What conditioning, what traditions, what inherited beliefs would you personally have to be willing to set aside to read it truly on its own terms?